Run.
Hey, John, just talk a little bit about how practice has been going, if you feel any different now than you did 2 weeks ago, and what still worries you the most about the next 2 or 3 weeks coming up.
Well, the first question is I'm having a ball every day I walk in because I got a bunch of guys that want to be coached, that want to challenge each other, that are engaged. We got veterans. When you have veterans, they're on time. It starts to lead without even saying anything. They lead. And that's been fun. I haven't had many teams with veteran kind of players on it, so I kind of forget that it takes one thing off your plate. But it's good. They're shooting the ball. They're playing. They're competing. You know, a little bit like Reed and PJ, that kind of team. You know, you have a Nick and Damian, but it's a little bit like Reed and PJ being together.
Hey, John, with all the changes in college basketball, NIL, transfer portal, G League coming in, taking more and more, Coach K's hanging it up, Roy hung it up. Why didn't you just use this point in time to say, I'm done with it, I've done enough, I'm walking away?
They're way older than me, both of them. Well, let me talk about NIL first. Kids come here because of the culture, because of the basketball. They want to be coached up. They want to compete. They're not promised the world. They don't come here because of name, image, and likeness. But let me say this. To this point, our players have the most transactions on our campus, and there's only really 10 of them taking advantage. And they have the most transactions on this campus. They are benefiting by this. Now, that's not why you come here, but it'll be better here for everybody because there's 3 more requests to talk to our team by companies. So they request their direct messages so they want to talk to everybody. It's a little different. But here's the thing. You talk about life skills we're able to teach. I talked to them about a tax account. They're like, a tax account? Yeah, you got to set half your money aside and put it in a tax account. Why? I said, because there's this guy, Mr. FICA. And this Mr. FICA is relentless. He's coming after his money, and you better set half the money aside so you have money to pay him. The other side of it becomes they got to look and read contracts. Talk about football. Football are 3-year deals. So a kid make X amount of money, but it's over 3 years. You can't sign 3-year deals. So you got to read the contract. You got to know what it says. You got to be involved. We got to help protect them in those kind of things. And the other thing is financial literacy. They're coming across money for the first time. So I asked some of you, how many of you knew anything about taxes when you graduated from college? How many of you knew anything about looking at a contract? How many of you even had a credit card? How many of you had a credit card? Did you know anything about stocks and bonds, mutual funds? Well, these kids, this is life skills through this. But I say it again, they don't come here because of that, but ours would be the best based on what this program is about in men's basketball and the culture we built in men's basketball, the aura of men's basketball, and it's been built long before I got here. We're standing on the shoulders of some great coaches and players, but it is here. Lastly, I would say this again. You got to have flexibility and be nimble, not to restrict, because we know if it goes to the Supreme Court again, you're losing. It was 9-0. So you can't be nimble and flexible to restrict. You're flexible and nimble so you can see if another state does things that puts us at a disadvantage. Okay, let's be flexible enough that we can adjust how we do this. We needed the executive order. Now, there's some things that we need to go back now in the state law and make sure we're all protected also. A player isn't playing a whole lot, and it affects his name, image, and likeness. What, is he going to sue me? I'm not the one. You're deciding. Well, so there's got to be some protection. Former athletes, they're mad. Why didn't you do this for us? Do you know how much I would have made? So there's some things that need to be in it, but flexible and nimble are so that we can move, not be more restrictive. Well, we're going to decide now it can't be that way, because you're not going to win that. I mean, it's a state law. Well, I just know it was a 9-0 vote. Our kids, no effect on the locker room. Matter of fact, I asked them one time, went through and individually, not as a group, and they all were like, is this having any effect on? They went, what? No, we're all happy. We know some are going to do better than others, but Coach, we're all involved in this. Our walk-ons are involved in it. And that's how you get to the number of transactions that we have, and still 3 or 4 companies have already called about doing more. We haven't done autographs. We've kind of just said, let's get into the season. And when the season starts, I want this to be really trimmed up. They're not worried about anything except playing. Thank you for giving me that bully pulpit for a minute.
Go to Jerry Tipton in the middle. Dick, I'll come to you next.
John, I remember earlier in the preseason, you talked about how what a luxury it is to kind of know going into each day's practice what you're going to get from players. How much of that did you have last year, and how does that show itself, do you think, going forward? How does that benefit?
Well, this is like a normal season for us. I told them yesterday, we have not had a bad practice yet. And I said, we go through seasons without a bad practice here. Seasons. And those are the teams that are winning 38, 35, 32. Those are those teams. And there's a bunch of them. Last year's a blip. That's so far behind me. What we went through, and I learned from it, and you move on. But what I like about this group, there's competing against each other. But let me say this. Yes, we do have depth. So now you have guys that are similar skills offensively. Who would you play now? It's you. They're very similar offensively. Who are you going to play? The kids are done in practice, but how about defends better, rebounds better, takes care of the ball better? Those guys get a leg up, and I keep telling them. You're competing with each other, yet I'll play as many deserve to play. But I'm saying this again, folks, it's not communism. It is not communism. And if I have to play 10, 11, 12, I would. It's not what I'd like to do, but it's not about me. It's about them. If I played 10 before, I'd rather not. I played 5 before and 6. Probably not enough, but I would do it if people separate as we go forward. Right now, if you walked into practice and watched, you'd say they are really competing.
Go to Dick Gabriel in the middle, and then Jeff Gooden after that.
John, this is sort of a follow-up to what you just said, but based on the makeup of your roster with new faces right here, and
You're saying right here. I don't know where right here, right there. There you go. I'm waving at you. Thank you. Go ahead.
no, and you've got new faces via the transfer portal. So that said, what sort of things are you going to be looking for in the blue, white, and in the exhibition games that maybe you don't get to see in practice?
Well, when there's popcorn popping and there's people in the seats, guys seem to play different. People that I've tried, like in my mind, I want it to be this guy. You know, there's times I've started guys. Let me put it this way. I haven't started players. They forced their way in. And their lottery picks, they weren't even starting because I thought it would be the other guy. Most of the time, it takes me a minute for them to figure out who it's supposed to be. Emmanuel Quickly's a great story. But so is Shea Alexander. I can go on and on. We've had a bunch of them. So, yes, we'll have an idea. You know, it's us playing against each other. They know each other. We play against a couple exhibition, and then we start regular season. we'll have it figured out by then.
Put it Jeff in the middle still, and then John, you'll be right after him.
John, in terms of the blend of what you have right now with some older guys that you really haven't had via the transfer route, a lot of high major guys, coaches haven't gone the transfer route.
I didn't hear that.
A lot of high major coaches have not gone the transfer route. Jay Wright, Danny Hurley, some of those guys have just decided to go more high school. Why did you decide to do this? Was it out of necessity, or was it just, hey, listen, this
Yeah, what I'm always doing, we recruit really good players and then they leave right away. We'll deal with it. What's the best thing? For this team, we needed a couple more players. And so when you looked around, do you really want to bring somebody here that's not quite good enough, that's going to really struggle here? Well, then you go see what the other guys are. And in our case, the players that we brought in, Kellen, now he struggled early because he's never played this fast, but he's not struggling now. Xavier, I told him, you're not getting 4 turnovers a game. That ain't happening here. And all of a sudden you see him, what he's doing. You look at Oscar. He's 255 pounds with 7% body fat. He's flying. The pro day, they said, we didn't know he could move his feet that way. So you're talking about guys that are adding to us. Now, what I've done in the past to grad students, Reed was really good for us. And it was great to have an older player with some younger guys. We did it with Nate Sestina, who was terrific for that team. And that team could have won the national title. I mean, we won our league by 3 games, and then the pandemic hit. So I've done it, but we've never done it with a sophomore, a junior. CJ's been hurt, but he can really shoot the ball, and I can't wait till we get him on the court. I mean, he's been on the court 15 minutes, so we haven't seen it. Now, here's what I would tell you. In a normal year, like if this class finishes like I think it's going to finish, the only way we take a transfer is if we have a roster of 9 players. Now, you won't believe this. You need a warm-up line. You got to have like enough where you can have a couple balls. So, okay, then maybe we take a transfer. If we miss on a kid, then maybe we take a transfer. The good news for us, if you talk to Sevier, you talk to Kellen, you talk to Oscar, you talk to CJ, those are the guys that would say to somebody, if you got a chance to get in this culture, what men's basketball is and how we do it here, you take advantage of it. So, but I'm not that smart to say I'm going to invent something. I'm just playing it. All right, where are we now?
Now sticking out to Rob. John, go ahead.
Hey, John, a lot has been made about your new energy and outlook this year. I had a colleague from out of state ask me, what is a swaggy cow? What should I tell him? And is that a name that you embrace?
What is the name he said?
Swaggy cow.
Who says that?
Everybody does. Look to you.
What's that?
Everybody does. Fans do.
They call me Swaggy Cal.
Swaggy cow.
Why don't you tell my wife that's what you guys call me? She would enjoy that. I would hope every year that I walk in the gym that the players know that, wow, he expects us to be good. And not only expects, he's demanding that we improve every day so that we are good when we finish. He doesn't put it on the score, wins, and it's about, are we getting better? And man, he's confident. Well, part of it is I've done this for 30-some years, and the process and the culture we've built at different places is similar. It's about being about the kids first. I said this many times. I went from the business of basketball to the business of kids and families, and it shifts. Like I'm telling these players now, a lot of stuff we're doing is for you individually, so you improve, so you can help us be our best. And I don't know if that's swaggy, Cal, but I'm confident in what we do and how we teach and how we're playing. Now, we're going to play different this year. When we did the dribble drive, it was totally different than everybody else. When we did the positionless basketball, it became different than everybody else. When we played with 3 point guards, how do you do that? You can't. Well, they all were drafted, and it all worked out for everybody. One of them scored 60, Jamal Murray, in a game. I mean, you could, and now what we're doing now, the spacing and what we're trying is different. I'm not afraid to, matter of fact, I kind of like changing what I do. And to be honest, I don't like, you get people that say, he's listening to me, and we laugh because he says, I don't listen to anybody. I don't listen to my wife. You guys see her on, what's she on? Instagram, following me, putting the garbage, what? I don't care what she does. Take my picture, go do what you want. You have fun? Good. But the best part of this is trying new things. Now, I am making calls to friends of mine saying that I'm trying this. Do you think this will work? Because I don't want to waste time with this group. So there's some things that I've scrapped already that I didn't like, that didn't fit this group. And every group I have is different. But I don't know. I'm comfortable and confident, but I've been comfortable when we've gone into games and you get smacked and we weren't ready. But I want them to know, if you spend the time and you sacrifice and you're about each other, you'll win your share of games and you'll have a chance to be the last team standing. You know, I've said this, I just looked at something. I've never seen a selfish person who's happy, and I've never seen an unselfish player not be happy or be unhappy. And I'm just trying to get these. It's hard now when you got 10, 11 guys all trying to eat, you know. How do you get them to be about each other? It's the hardest challenge we have as coaches.
We're going to go coach over on the right side. Larry Vaughn. Larry waves so he can see you.
Yeah. John,
Larry, you need a haircut, just so you know.
just got one.
Oh, my gosh.
Just got one last week. So, could you talk a little bit about Tubby going to have his jersey retired and when he'll be here and what you hope that day will be like?
Yeah, he and I talked today. He and I have talked about this for a while. As a matter of fact, you know, I called him about, like, you need to get back in here, and I'm really happy the university saw fit to do this for him. But I had one thing I told him. I'm going to tell you right now, I'm going to be really ticked if your ovation is bigger than mine. That's what I told him, jokingly. And he laughed. But you know what I said to him? What happens, you leave a program. I don't think Coach Hall understood how much he was loved here. And, you know, when he went on his birthday and he did the Y, and everybody went absolutely bonkers, and they did the statue for him over here, and now he'd come and bring friends to show. I mean, he understood how much he was loved here. And I want Tubby to understand. I said, Tubby, when I mention your name, I'm going to be in Louisville tomorrow, and I will mention his name. It's like a standing ovation. I said, Tubby, you are loved here. And the more that the time goes by, I think the more people respect the job he did and how he did it. So I'm really happy for him. He deserves it, and we'll be so honored. I'm hoping some of his former players the night before come back, and I think we're going to have a bunch of them where they come back and honor him together, because he was loved. I put it out last night. His players loved him, loved playing for him.
Go back to Jerry in the middle, and then Darryl will come over to the left.
Swaggy, you guys are number 10 in the AP poll.
Jerry, you know what your nickname is?
Go ahead.
No, I'm not going to do it. There's women here. I cannot do it.
I was going to say, I'll play straight, man. Okay. You're number 10 in the AP poll, picked to win the SEC. What do you think of that?
You know, that's all good. That's, you know, we got to play the games and see what happens. And You know, it's a long season, and let's just hope we're one of the last teams standing at the end. We may struggle early like we always do. We struggle early, too bad. Let's go. We're going to get better. We got good players. We got good guards. We got some physical players who are men, and, you know, there's not a whole lot of, I got fouled, and no one's saying that. You're trying to survive. So that's nice. I mean, let me say this about our league. Our league is probably the best it's ever been. And our league may be the best league in the country. Like, those games should be games where every fan is trying to get to, the league games, because they're going to be, and you know the league always gives us the hardest games. And if it's only one game, where are we playing them? We're playing them in a road, and there's a game day. I mean, it's, you know, it's going to be a dogfight like it is every year, but the league has gotten better. The coaches, by and large, are, you know, recruiting and doing good stuff. I think the investments that all the universities have made into their basketball program, which we talked about 10 years ago, got to invest in basketball. Can't just invest in one sport. You got to invest there. You know, here, we have to reinvest. Now it's our turn to go back and reinvest in all our stuff. We got to be the gold standard. I want to have a campus that has everything on it, men and women teams and sports science and housing and how they eat and dietitians and even classrooms where other students could be a part of it. So my vision is always, as it is, ridiculous, but, you know, the gold standard, that men's basketball at Kentucky, men's basketball here, all that's been done over the years has been because administrations want to win championships, listen to me, in men's basketball. And over the years, they always made that commitment. And we're continuing that now. And so what we're doing and where we're going, it's some pretty big stuff.
So Larry over on the left, Keith, I don't know if you had a question, then we'll come over here to the right. Go ahead, Daryl.
Yeah, John, at the open practice at Rupp the other day, there were a couple of times you were telling your guys, we are going to...
I can't hear you. Move it away from you. There you go. Go ahead.
At the open practice the other day, there were a couple of times you told your players, we are going to be a speed team. What's your definition of that?
You run faster than you think you can run. And when a guy's going at his speed, I stop it. Why is that fair that Oscar is running so fast he's not getting his feet in front of him and you're going at your pace? What's fair about that? If you run in a game like that, you're telling me you're tired, you're coming out. So get used to it. Let's create that habit. First 3 steps, we're flying. Doesn't mean you just play fast. It means you're running fast, and then you have poise, and then you have pace to your game. The biggest thing when you run fast to most of these players, their feet are moving real fast, and their mind's moving just as fast. Well, you can't play that way. You got to run fast and have a slow look at what's going on around you. So we've been working on it. They've been great. I'm telling you, they're trying, they're running, we got a great feel. They're for each other, but it got a little bit physical the other day, and guys broke off and went one-on-one to beat the guy that's beating them up. Can't play that way. All right, you got to work harder to get free, then he's working hard to grab you and hold you from getting the ball. You got to be stronger on drives. You may have to come to stops. He grabbed my arm, so what? Play. Now you come down and it's one-on-one, I'm going to show him, and then you turn it over and get it blocked. Boop. That's why we don't do it. So this has been, the only way you get that is if they're competing like that in practice. The only way you can really compete in practice like that is you have 10 that can go against each other. And they can do that, and we do.
Keith, do you have a question? I couldn't tell if you raised your hand. Yes or no? No, okay. Whoever to the right, Gary Graves.
John, with so many guards on this roster, how have you sorted through the similarities between them? I don't know if redundancies is a word, but how have you kind of sorted through that process and figured out, just exactly where they fit in at this point?
I think what you have in basketball players, you have place starters and you have finishers. When your place starter is taking the most shots on your team, not a good thing. If your finisher is trying to drive and pass and play and he's got more turnovers than assists, not a good thing. So what you first try to find out, who are the play starters and who are the finishers? We do drills where you're trying to make baskets in the last 5, 6 seconds of a clock. Who can make those? Then who can do it in a game? But I'm going to tell you, this will come down to if there are a couple guys that are better defenders, those will be that last couple guys. That will be the differentiator. He's a tough, rebounding, defensive player who can finish. He's a tough, rebounding, great defender and great play starter for us. He can really shoot it, but this guy can shoot it too. So we got to wade through that. And part of it will be in games. It's like, I've got to figure some things out and make sure everybody has their opportunity. But you guys know I say this every year. Before it's all said and done, every one of these guys will start. And you'll prove whether you should keep starting or you're the victim. Well, I didn't play for a while. Now you started me. Now I can't. Well, you're the victim. I don't deal with victims well. Well, I haven't played it. Now you're starting. Well, now you already have excuses. No, everyone on this team will have their chance. Some will start ahead. Emmanuel didn't. And he was player of the year in the league. Shea didn't. And he ended up a lottery pick. I mean, those kids, I remember telling Shea, probably could start you. And he said to me, Coach, I trust you. Just do what you're doing. I'm good. So it'll all play out. Let me just say it. We got good guards. We do.
We're going to do 2 questions over here that we see if anyone has any virtual questions, and then we might have time for a few more here. Go ahead, Rich.
Hey, Coach, over here. I know you mentioned you like this team's competitiveness. Obviously, it changes once the season starts and you see them out there. But what else do you like about this group? Do you like their shooting? Do you like their speed or their height? What are some things that you're kind of feeling out right now?
Well, there's just, you're trying to figure out, guys. I called Damian in the office the other day and said, you got to show me more. I don't know enough about you. Make some mistakes, shoot some balls you shouldn't shoot. Do some stuff so I can see what you are and what you're not, and then we can talk through it. I'll give you an example. I said that to him, and he shot 2-point shots. He shot every 5-on-5 that we do, there's stats. There's for the season so far, and we do it by week, sometimes every 2 weeks. Damian shot the ball from 2, pull-ups, some floaters, some stickbacks, 65%. From the 3, he was 0%. So in front of the team, I said, this is what the numbers. So you probably should shoot more 3s. No. How about you dive to the rim more? How about you find scoring opportunities within 16 feet? How about the shot goes up? Don't be standing on the perimeter. Even though you're playing one of those spots, you got to be a diver. And all of a sudden yesterday, he was ridiculous. But that's what we have to do. That's what coaches do. You try to, some of the kids will listen. Some of them will be delusional. I'm going to show you that I can turn this thing over. Okay. Or I can play a certain way. Okay. That's your choice. That's a great thing. But I have choices too as a head coach. And so, it's what we're doing with guys. Bryce, whew, he didn't practice for 10 days, 7 days, and he moved back. Well, he's back practicing, and he's kind of nudging his way up. Very physical. Starting to try to rebound more. You could play him as a 4. You could play him as a 3. He's probably not big enough to play as a 5. Damian can be a 4 or 5. Keon can be a 4 or 3. I mean, there's all kind of moving parts right now.
Take one more here in person. We'll see what we got virtually.
Cal, as far as going through last year, maybe what you learned from it, what are some things that you're doing this year, you know, even on and off the court, that you've been able to do similar or maybe different, just as far as the coach?
Last year was a pandemic, so I'm by that. I mean, it was once in 100 years. Feel bad for the kids. I feel bad for the students. Somebody said, what if you were a freshman? What an awful thing. What if you were a senior, your last year? What an awful thing. What about a team sport? What an awful thing. It's done. This team reminds me of past teams that I've had that come every day. You ready for this? You can scrimmage more. Most people will say you don't scrimmage enough. They'll come in and watch and you need to scrimmage more. And I say, yeah, and you got fired, so don't even talk to me. So, but they're right. We got to scrimmage more. But until I get them to develop the habits that are winning habits, playing doesn't help that. It confirms what they think, which is not right. So this team, though, is advanced, partly because I got some older players, partly because we got 10 and they're competing. So we're doing, yesterday was 2.5 hours, and my guess is nearly 2 hours we scrimmaged. And I mean, we went, now I did it different ways. I take that back, 15 minutes, 10 minutes for shooting, so probably an hour and 45. And hopefully we get more of that because they got to get to feel each other and how they're playing.
All right, guys, bear with us here. We're going to try this.
Go ahead. You in the blue, raise your hand. Mike. Is your name Mike, or we're getting him a mic?
Coach, I've heard you say before that if you find a bobby pin on the ground for a game.
A bobby pin?
Yeah, that you're going to win. Last season, did you find any bobby pins on the ground before the win?
I had a mask on. I didn't look down at anything, so they may have been down there, but I did not see them.
When's the last time you found one before a game?
Well, I find them when it's not a game. I know I'm going to have a good day. But I get, look, it used to be a coin with the head up. A great story. So we're playing it. I'm coaching at UMass at the time. And the story got out that I'd walk around, if I found a coin head up, we'd win. We're playing Temple, might have been my second year, in the championship game of the tournament, which had never happened before. And I went to sit down, and there must have been 500 coins under my chair, all head up. I mean, our fans, we didn't win the game either, by the way. But no, that's, you know, I'm less and less, you know, superstitious like I used to be, but I do have bobby pins everywhere. If you're around my house, my office, my clothes, my coats, they're in there somewhere.
All right, guys, we're going to kick to virtual questions. Tony, I think you can hear me. Go ahead, Tony, with whatever questions we've got, please.
Okay, if you're on the chat room, please raise your hand to ask questions. The first one will come from...
If I can't understand it, you tell me what it is.
Coach, you've been in this business a long time. I want to ask you this because I ask a lot of coaches this. When it's all said and done, whether that's 5 years, 10 years, 20 years, Coach, I know you're a player's first coach, but what is the legacy and what has college basketball meant to you? What do you want your legacy to be when it's all said and done?
There's two things that basketball has done for me. It got me to understand as a player the commitment that if you're willing to sacrifice and commit to something, you can be good at it. Now, there may be better than you, but you could be your best. You could take pride in every morning. It can wake you up in the morning. It could make you go. The second thing is basketball is a team sport. On the court, when I played, obviously, we had cell phones back then, did we? No? But they can't be on the court with cell phones. So they can't text each other. They can't send pictures. They must talk. You're also in the locker room. Now, sometimes they grab the phones too quick. But the reality of it is, through this game, I've created relationships as a player, high school, college, are still my friends today. You create relationships. You ready for this one? Mitch, they're authentic. They're authentic relationships. They're not just fly by and how are you? They're authentic. You understood how to let the other guy be right. So be wrong so he could be right. My dad taught me early, you don't have to argue with anything. Don't argue. Just let him be wrong. You know, I learned that we're arguing. Okay, you're right. I let him be wrong. I mean, there's so many things. Then I get into coaching. Again, my dad worked at the airport. Later in life, he was a baggage handler. My mom was at the high school, junior high school, selling ice cream in the white jacket for a dime. Might have been. It was a dime back then. But I'm in a position to help families, and it's all been through this game. And I went from the business of basketball to say, if I help families, and that's what I do, and I'm about them, not we're all about banners. They'll be about banners. We've won one. I'd like to win 5 more. But I'm not changing the culture here, which is how do we help young people get better? Sometimes it's holding them accountable, and other times you got to pick them up, but they have to understand their confidence is built through their competence. If they're not competent, they can't be confident. If they don't get in that gym and work on it and build their own confidence, there's nothing I can do, but we talk that way all the time. So my ability, and you say legacy, it'll be how many people and staff people, and I try wherever I work to work with other coaches and help them, and as they help me, and whether it be the athletic directors that I've worked for who still call me once a week, to presidents of the universities that know what we did. It's more than just winning a game for me, and trying to win every game we play. Trying to put banners up every year I coach, but not at the expense of kids. It's just not. My hope would be that's one dude that was about their kids. That was a long answer, huh? How much more time? Can I filibuster anymore? Go ahead.
Next question, Thompson, go ahead, Tyler.
So I know it's basketball media day, but I feel like I need to ask about Kentucky football. Kentucky football's 6-1. How excited are you for Mark Stoops? And is it refreshing to see the two sports coexisting so well?
Well, first of all, we've always coexisted, and whoever was the coach, Rich was, but Mark and I are close. We're from the same Western PA and Youngstown. He's Yins. I mean, he's one of my guys. But what he's done here, which took time, this didn't happen in 2 years. He did this over a period of time. I called him after Georgia, and he was upset. I thought we could have played better. I said, Mark, it was a rock fight. It was a rock fight. You're not going to have execution. You're trying to survive, and your kids never budged. That crazy call, the fumble, I thought this was going to be and then they score one play later. And it kind of changed things. And that's sports, especially Kentucky in football, who are now vowing to have an undefeated season or a one-loss season. And it's a little different when things happen. But it was like volleyball here when Coach Skinner said to me, we can't quite get over the hump. And I said, when you do, you will see you'll be running downhill. And that was about 5 years ago. And his thing has done the same as Mark's. And, I have to tell you that the commitment in all the sports here, new soccer stadium, new softball stadium, new baseball stadium, $190 million in football. You're talking about what they've done for volleyball. They're trying to build more track. They already built one. They're trying to go with another one. You're talking tennis. How about our rifle team? Got a bunch of snipers over there. I mean, these dudes are winning. I mean, it is the investment that's been made here is in all the sports. So no one can say, well, they put all the money in basketball. It's not what happened here. It's not what happened here. So I give them credit. I mean, let me go one further. Dr. Capilouto, making this a students first campus, 6,000 new beds, $3 billion in new housing, new student facilities, new places to eat, common areas to learn and teach each other and take this camp. I mean, there's a lot. What year is this for me?
13th season.
It's my 13th year. You know that's dog years here. So that's, not, what is it, 91? Been here 91 seasons. It's 7 for every 1 year here. And I've had fun watching it. I told the president, I said, Doc, I said, the only way you see growth on a campus is see cranes. You got to see cranes. But I didn't want to see them outside my window. I'm somewhere else, not over here. But what's been done here and how it's been done and what Mitch has done with all the sports. And I got a responsibility to men's basketball. I got to make sure I'm on top of all the stuff that concerns us, which I do, because it's important for all the sports here. It's important for our state. It's what it is. What else? And let me say this. I am so happy for football. Packed stadiums, running onto the field, like storming the field, all this stuff. It's just great. It's great for the morale of this campus. It's great for our alums to take pride in this place.
Tony, you got anything else?
Hello, Tony, you awake?
Yeah, I'm awake. Sorry.
Okay, wake up.
Yeah, Nick Rock.
Cal, more and more players are entering the portal mid-season. How does your coaching staff evaluate prospects in the transfer portal?
Are you talking football or men's basketball?
Football, but it'll probably bleed over to basketball eventually.
Well, here's my problem with the transfer portal. I said it all along. First of all, it's going to help Kentucky. I thought that would nix it and they would never do it. That's what I thought. It is going to help Kentucky. Why? Kids are going to want to come here. They're going to want to hone their skills. They're going to want to be in this culture. The question is, how much do we take advantage of it? The problem I had was I've coached at UMass. I've coached at Memphis, where now do you take freshmen who are going to leave in a year, or do you take transfers because they can't leave? All right, so now you take transfers. Who gets bumped out? High school players. I have a friend of mine whose son, he said, Cal, I swear he's Division I. He had offers, and now everybody's holding back scholarships in case they can get transfers. And I knew it would go down to there. So the opportunities for young people start drying up because everybody says, you know what, I'll wait. We've never had, normally in a year I'll have 11 scholarships. I never use 13. And usually the last couple I'm given to walk-ons that deserve it. So I don't see mid-season. If it happens, we'll have scholarships. We had one, Hamidou Diallo came mid-season and then played the following year. We've done that once. It's not something I look for, but if it happens, you know, and the kid can really benefit by practicing and being a part of our team and getting a head start, that's fine. But I think football mid-season will happen. I'm not sure basketball will have the same. One more, Tony?
No more questions on the Zoom.
Got one more in person. If we hit Brian real quick, he didn't get one.
Well, the older guys, we still have guys that don't think it's a responsibility to speak. And the problem is they're not going to play that much because your team is way better when everybody's chattering. You're just way better, your team. Yeah, but I'm this and this. Yeah, but our team isn't the same. You have to talk. We had a group out there yesterday that talked like crazy, and the coaches were looking at each other like, what? We were in our press, we're pressing, we're trapping, the ball goes over, and they all match down, and they're talking and pointing. I'm like, what just happened? But the other team then would talk to themselves like, oh my, you see that? Yeah, you got to speak. That's all part of that. What's the differentiator? Why is he playing instead of this guy? The toughness, the rebounding and defense, the ability to talk. Our team is better with him on the court. All that stuff. Like I said to Dante the other day, he had an unbelievable day rebounding. And I said, listen, if you rebound the ball like this, you're going to get on the floor because it's not just shooting. You may go 0 for 6. You may go 6 for 6. But if you're rebounding, none of that matters. And so he's been doing better. But he's in it's competition. I mean, we got some good guys. And CJ has not started yet. Now, he won the three-point contest. He started practicing yesterday. It didn't, I said, hey, we're going to take another day. So that's where we are with that. But talking, you're right. That if you sit on the sidelines and the team doesn't talk, they stink. That's a team that stinks. If you sit on the sideline and there's chatter and they're talking, talk to me. I'm coming. My man's on the left. Go. I got you on the backside. When you hear that, probably a pretty good team.
All right, guys, we're going to end there with Coach. I want to thank him for joining us. Some instructions for what we're going to